friends. Today we're talking about boundaries. Boundaries are very interesting because they are a part of every area of our life. They're part of our stewardship over ourself and our life and our relationships and everything that we are engaging with. And often they are, and they can be a little tricky to understand. So I want to first describe it as our house. That's an easy one to understand. The place where we live, if we have the perimeter of the property, we could put up a fence to delineate. This is my property, and next door is someone else's property. And if I want my child to be able to play outside, I can put up a fence so that my child can play without wandering into someone else's yard, and also to just communicate with other people that they can't just come up and start playing with my child without some type of acknowledgement from me. And same thing for other things like other people or wild animals or pets of other people. If I don't want them to just automatically be able to come into my yard and my space, and want them to need to come to the gate and acknowledge that they need to ask permission, then you can put up a fence. And that fence could be very permeable, where air can get through, or it could be brick, solid, and really tall, where nothing can get through. And that's often how our boundaries end up. We want them to be healthy, like a white picket fence would be just lovely, where we can see through, air can flow through easily, but it's definitely delineating the edge of my space and then where my space meets other people's spaces. But it's also not a solid brick wall. So sometimes with trauma, which we've all had trauma, capital T or lowercase t trauma, people can do two things as a response to trauma: put up a solid brick wall, completely walling themselves off from everyone, keeping everyone at a really far distance, not letting anyone get close at all, physically or emotionally or energetically, any of those ways, or through communication. Or they can go the opposite direction and have no boundaries and maybe overshare, overtake, be a little too transparent, have no boundaries at all, let other people dictate their life. So we want to be in the middle. A little white picket fence would do the trick. So here I'm going to share one of my favorite ways to think about boundaries with the circles. That's upside down. Okay, so this is one way to view it, that I am the one in charge of my body, in charge of my energy field, which extends outside my body, in charge of my thoughts, my emotions, my time, my belongings, my energy, everything. That's all part of my stewardship, and it belongs to me, and I'm the one who's in charge of it. And so that's what boundaries are for, is me choosing what I want to do with it. If I get to choose who is allowed to touch my body, I get to choose who is allowed to receive any of my time, I get to choose who is allowed to talk with me and hear my thoughts. I get to choose all of those things because I am the steward. And if I went to the other end of having no boundaries at all, then whatever is nearby me would get to choose. The people around me would get to choose if they are allowed to touch my body or not, if they're allowed to have my time or not, if they're allowed to have my belongings or not. And so boundaries is really just us choosing, identifying that as the steward of myself, I will choose how I use my resources that I steward. So here we have ourself in the middle circle, and this inner circle, if you think about it as your space, like personal space, your energy field does extend outside of your body, and it can vary. You can send it out pretty far, you can bring it in kind of close, but everyone's experienced that when someone comes into your personal space and you're not okay with it and not comfortable with it, and you're not in agreement that you would like someone else to be in your energy field. You've felt that before, of when that doesn't feel good, and also when it does feel good and you want to invite someone into your personal space, because it's literal, it's real. Our energy field, it does impact us when people and things come into our energy field. So you can think about it that way, that who and what is allowed into the closest ring of your energy field or not. So strangers on the street, are they allowed to just come right in and hold your hand and take you by the arm and rub your arm or your back or hug you? You get to choose. So probably strangers would be out here or in the outer ring. I choose that is the type of proximity they are allowed. And then maybe friends and acquaintances, and then family, and then intimate partner and children would be up closer. So you get to choose. It's your own space, it's your own body. You get to choose what you are okay with and where people are allowed. So same thing with your belongings as well. Is someone who is allowed to touch your stuff? Same thing. If a stranger off the street just walked through the door of your house and started going through all of your stuff, and maybe even taking some of it and putting it in their bag, would that be okay? No. So then what are strangers allowed? They're allowed to ring the doorbell, or maybe you have a no trespassing or no soliciting sign on your front gate. They're not even allowed to come in the gate of your property. So you get to choose that. And then who is allowed to come inside your home? Who is allowed to touch your stuff, and under what circumstances? Do they need to ask permission first? Your closest, the people closest in your life, your primary people, do they need to ask permission, or do they need to ask permission once? And then you let them know that they can read that book of yours whenever they'd like to, as long as they put it back on the shelf when they're done. So all of that you get to choose, which is similar. Another way I like to think about that is, even if you're out and about and not in your house, like for women, if you have a purse, it's the same thing. If someone just started sticking their hand in your purse and going through it or pulling things out, maybe that's okay for you if it's your partner or your children, but a stranger, probably not. And maybe even for your children or your partner, same thing of, no, this is mine and I would prefer you to ask me first. So it's basically just deciding how you feel and how you want to steward what you're comfortable with. Okay, same thing with time. Time is yours. Your time is yours, and you get to choose. You get to choose. People can't just say, hey, give me some of your time right now. I want it. Give it to me. I don't care what else you are choosing to budget your time with, or to use your time and give your time to, use your time for. I don't care about any of that. I want some right now. Give it to me. Are you okay with that? Or if you're not, what are you okay with? How would you want to spend your time? So maybe for that one, you could think about what is most important to you that you want to use your time for every day. So maybe your own health, maybe your relationship with your creator or with the divine, eating food, things that you want to use your time for regularly, and then things that you that are come up as a second priority, a third priority, and things that you sometimes use your time for. And then once you have clarity on that, it really helps with upholding your boundaries. So something that's out here, maybe I do a service project once every 30 days, or things that are just, or other things that are really, really less common. And if those things ever said, hey, give me all of your personal health and your relationship and your family time right now, it becomes pretty clear of, no, I have a boundary that my top priority and what I give my time to first is only these things. And stuff that I prioritize out here has to wait for all these other things. Okay. Or maybe is a rare occurrence, and only if I feel really drawn that that's the right thing. So you get to choose. You get to choose. Your boundaries is choosing what you want to use your resources for, and how, and then also how you want to uphold them. Okay, so same thing here for thoughts. Not everyone is entitled to your thoughts. If someone says, hey, tell me what you think about this, you don't have to. You get to choose. You get to choose who you share your thoughts with and which ones. And same thing, that says, so like someone who has no boundaries might overshare, might share something that's not appropriate in a certain setting, or that really is really special and should be they shared with someone who really loves them and really is going to respect it. And so sharing something that's really special and vulnerable with, you know, someone out here might not be very healthy or appropriate, and can even disrespect other people's boundaries. Okay, so your thoughts, same thing with your beliefs, your desires, and your choices. Your choices, you get to choose all your choices, either because life provides the opportunity and you choose into it, or because you consciously choose. So if someone says, here, I'm going to make all your choices for you, or I'll tell you what to choose, or I want you to make this choice because I want it. I want it. I want you to make this choice. You don't have to. You get to choose. You get to choose what you'll let influence your choices. Maybe feedback, or if you ask for reflections from someone that you really trust, or someone you really feel is wise in the category, in the area that you're making a choice in, and you'll say, yeah, I will consider their input from the people that I trust the most, or the people that I know love me and I believe are quite wise. And I won't give equal weight to input from people who don't know me, or who dislike me, or who have repeatedly disrespected me, or total strangers, etc. You get to choose even what input you'll receive and what sources you'll look to for making your choices. Okay, so then once you've identified, so this is a really great exercise to do on your own, because another way to describe boundaries is standards. If someone says, I have a standard that strangers can't touch me, that acquaintances can't hug me without asking, can I give you a hug? We get to choose our standards of, I don't give my time to just whatever, is blowing in the wind my direction. I use my time first for my top priorities, and then a little bit for my lower priorities. I choose that. That's my standard. So often people can view boundaries as walls, as like the brick wall, or like just as harsh walls delineating or creating a divide between people, which is, that's what an unhealthy boundary would be. An unhealthy boundary would be putting up a boundary that limits other people's agency. So an example would be if a spouse says, I'm trying to think of something, I won't allow bread in the house ever again because I'm doing a diet of no bread. That oversteps other people's boundaries of controlling their agency, that they're not allowed to have bread in their house because of your own boundary. So anywhere where our boundary limits the agency of someone else, it's unhealthy and is kind of that ick feeling that people often view about boundaries. So instead, I really like the perspective of a standard, of these are my standards that I live by. And then also to live by them, we also need to be able to uphold them. So kind of having an awareness of these are my boundaries, and also having an awareness of what I'll do if someone breaches my boundary. I am the steward of myself. I am the one responsible for protecting my boundaries and protecting myself. So if a stranger touches me, like comes up and touches me in the street, and I'm not comfortable with that, I will take action to uphold my standard and my boundary. And I'll say, no, thank you, please don't touch me. And I will take action to uphold my standard. Or if someone's toddler is maybe if they were playing on the ground, their toddler gets upset and starts kicking them or hitting their head, having an idea of like, well, that it does not fit with my standard for myself and my boundaries, so I will do something to stop that. I will stand up so that they cannot hit my head anymore. So what actions that we will take, because we're responsible. Setting a boundary is the first step, and if those boundaries are breached, it does create anger. That's one of the useful parts of anger, is it's notifying us of when a boundary has been breached or when we have a need that we need to take action on. So we are the ones who are responsible for upholding our boundaries and our standards. If someone maybe takes something, if your child goes through your purse and takes something, and you have a boundary that you would like people to always ask permission first before they touch your purse, and they do that, then it's up to you to say, hey honey, that's not okay with me. I need you to ask permission before you go through my purse. So taking action to uphold our boundaries. And it doesn't need to be, it can be very respectful. People sometimes are scared that upholding a boundary is going to be very aggressive and angry and mean, and it doesn't need to. It doesn't need to be. Also, same thing if you're in a conversation with someone and they're in a kind of a taking mode, and they want to be the only one talking, and they want to have your audience so that they can talk for as long as they want and have your listening ear. You get to choose. Do I want to give them my time? And if not, you get to choose. You get to say, you know what, I'm sorry, I've got something coming up soon, I gotta go. Or if you are now having a turn to talk and they try to cut you off, you can say, oh, hold on 1 minute, I want to finish this thought first. So you can speak up for yourself, advocate for yourself, be your own defender and protector. Okay, so, and also for communication, there's lots of really great communication options if that feels like a new territory, like, how would I use my words to notify people what my standards are in a not aggressive, angry way or mean way. Nonviolent Communication is a really awesome book, and they've got workbooks, and that's a really great resource. There are others too, but that's one I really like. Okay, so guess what's pretty magical is just that you identifying and getting really clear in your own head will get your energy field really clear on what your boundaries are, and your energy field will announce them. Our energy field's always announcing everything to the world. Everyone's energy can hear everyone else's energy. It's just whether or not we experience it on a conscious level. And the more we tune into that, the more we can. But so I promise this is really powerful. If you just take time on your own, you don't even have to say it out loud, and get really clear on my boundaries and my standards of how I want to use my time, my body, my thoughts, my belongings, my choices, my beliefs, and you write it down and you get really, really clear, that alone can start shifting things. And I've seen that happen so much, where I don't even have to tell anyone. I just tell myself and I tell God, and I energetically, I even imagine picturing announcing it to the universe of hey universe and all the people, these are my standards. And you can do it also with your time with work. You can say, I won't work for less than this amount of time. I'm okay with working this number of hours a day or a week. I'm not okay with I won't do work that is dishonest or etc. And I am in favor of using my time at work to do things that build myself and others and are productive and etc. etc. So the clearer you get on it, that will already start changing things energetically, and then it will also make it a lot easier for you to notice in your life when a boundary has been breached or when you need to communicate it, because other people might not know our boundaries and we might need to express it and let them know. Okay. All right. So there you go. There's so much more about boundaries, but that is a really great overview and starting point. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out. My website is releaseandrisehealing.com, or you can leave a comment below.